So thank you very much. I think this event should be interesting, and I think it's very relevant for students who are following from the Masters because of the technological base. I think, as we'll see later on today, what we saw a little back in 2014 with Moocs and the hype cycle about how they were going to affect us in different areas of education. We've seen that this has been true to some extent. And I think we're going to begin to see this with micro-credentials because we're moving towards a society where the demand for education, I think, will outstrip the offer. I think we started to see this back in 2015 with the influx of refugees and migrants, and this is certainly going to continue now with the Ukraine war. So, in fact, the need to be able to certify prior learning and actually get it recognized in order to be able to enter into the labor market is going to become more of an issue, and I think the universities are necessarily going to be geared up to meet that demand, although we certainly try in UNED. So anyway, I hope this event is going to be interesting. So we're going to start off now with my colleague Ángeles Sánchez-Elvira, who is the director of the University Institute for Distance Education. He's a great specialist in these matters. And she also holds the UNESCO chair for distance education. So I'm going to hand over to her now. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Tim, for the invitation to be with you this morning. I think it's very interesting to me to participate in this event and also to share with you some ideas. The first thing I'm going to talk in a very general way. It would be like a walk around some main ideas I want to pose here, and to arise some questions and things that we can discuss afterwards. So, as you can see, the title is Developing an Agile and Unbundled Higher Education for a Personalized Lifelong Learning. It's a very long title, and let's see if I can describe why these ideas are here. So, do you know what this picture is about? Someone knows? Where is this place? Anyone? Anyone has been there? Bologna. This is Bologna. This is the mother of universities. So it said so in Europe as. So this is why the Bologna process is all about. I mean, it was named Bologna because it was the first university. You can see there the date of this university, although there were other universities in other areas of the world. But this is like the regular university that started in this age. And why I say that? Well, that was the beginning, at least in Europe. And it's said that there are 3 generations of universities now, until now. And so the first generation is like Bologna. This is a university in which education and knowledge preservation was the main issue, the main objective. Then the second generation integrated research. And we are more or less in the 3rd generation, in which is education, research, and applied research to some areas, and that becomes a more broad and transdisciplinary and multidisciplinary areas of research now in the university, but it's this of applying a transference of knowledge towards society. Well, if we go back to the 20th century, it has been said that there was a spectacular demand and growth of those students that wanted to go to the universities, and they could do it. I will explain later on in the next slide why they could do it in a bigger number of students. Well, but you can see that in the 60s, there were 13 million of students, and in 1995, 82 million. Well, that's where the role of distance education universities began, because we were born in the late 60s and early 70s, such as the Open University of UK or UNED, and we were named as mega universities because we more or less have more than 100,000 students, so we could attend this huge demand of higher education for everyone with open access. So that was our first step in dealing with opening university to everyone. But at that time, in 1997, just approaching the beginning of the 21st century, Peter Drucker said that universities won't survive because the future was outside the traditional campus, and distance education was going to be, the lead in this sense. And, we already know what happened after. We are going to talk about it. So we came to the 21st century, and I say welcome to the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous 21st century. Why? Because it is said that we are living in a VUCA world. Maybe you have heard about that, but these are the VUCA is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous 21st century. And of course, if we go back to these first 22 years, we can see why this is, of course, what is happening now, right now, with the world we are living in. So the first thing I want to talk about, and that has an impact in universities and the things we have to do to prepare our people. The first thing is the deep transformation. We are living in a digital world. We already know this is a huge transformation, and that had a tremendous impact in education, in distance education, because we really transformed the way we start to do things and to do our education process when we integrated online learning in distance education. So that was a great revolution for us, but let's see what happened with the rest of the universities. In 2011, Clayton Christensen, that died 2 years ago, he introduced this idea of the innovative university, the disruption, and he also said that all the possibilities of digital education were forcing traditional universities to change, to reinvent themselves. If not, they would disappear. So again, this idea that if you don't introduce these possibilities we have with digital learning and with technologies, you could not cope with the challenges we have ahead. The European Commission, I'm going to talk about the European Commission ideas along my talk. In 2012, it was working about this idea of rethinking education and the modernization of higher education. And at that time, they said, they talked and they integrated that the relevance of transversal, basic, and specific skills was very much on the table. I mean, we had to start working on these transversal, basic, and specific skills for everyone in education, and of course in higher education. But we had to integrate digital learning and open educational resources. So, we started to work with this idea that digital learning and open educational resources were relevant for education. 2013, they also worked with this idea of opening up education, and they opened their first Mooc portal that was opened between 2014 and 2018. With this idea, the new technologies and open educational resources to deliver education were necessary things. But in 2014, McGlassie was saying about the modernization of higher education that the institutions and of course, the universities and the governments were really reluctant, resistant, and they were very slow in adopting all the things that they were saying that were relevant for the innovation in higher education. And they were very slow to adopt new technologies. So we were walking, I don't say distance education universities, but the traditional universities were working very slow. It's not just in this century the digital education or the digital transformation of our lives. We are dealing with very complicated and complex problems in a very unequal world that would need education and would need support to prepare people to deal with these problems and these challenges. So it's not just a thing of digital education, it's also to to be aware of the problems and the challenges we have to have. And this comes along with this idea of the 2030 agenda. In 2015, it was launched with these 17 sustainable development goals we have to cope with. And one of them is very relevant for us. It's number 4, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education for lifelong learning. That's our main objective in these sustainable development goals. And really it was this one, the main one in distance education always. I mean, this has been our main mission. So we still are working on that. But this now is for everyone. I mean, and that implies that we are going, if we talk about higher education, that in 2025, it is expected that we are going to have 262 million of university students in the world. And we have to ensure them this quality access and inclusive access to these possibilities under a lifelong learning perspective. Again, well, UNESCO, when it was working about the implementation of this Sustainable Development Goal, again, it reinforces this idea that a university should be supported by technology and open educational resources, and then distance education modalities really are the way in which this Sustainable Development Goal can be reached. I mean, with distance education, integrating technology, integrating flexible learning pathways along the line. One more challenge, the 4th Industrial Revolution that was introduced this idea by Klaus Schwab with this book in 2016. So it said that we are in the 4th Industrial Revolution, and each one becomes or arrives in a shorter period of time. And this has been very, very quickly. And we are really involved in this transformation that integrates, of course, the intelligence in terms of technologies that will give us all these possibilities that we are dealing with now. But which is the problem with that? That, well, in 2019, before the COVID problem, well, it was said that by this year, the skills required for most of jobs will have changed significantly. Well, maybe we haven't, I don't know if this is, have been accomplished or not, this idea, but really we are in this problem. I mean, with all these things, are we prepared for that? So the World Economic Forum said that, well, the thing is we have hundreds of millions of workers that have to be reskilled. So it's not just only, or it's not only how we give the first education in universities, the first programs, but also reskilling people along the life. So they say, well, millions of workers must be reskilled, and new workers must be ready for jobs that doesn't exist yet, so that they are going to appear. And also, it's not just the thing of technology, it's soft skills also that will be just as relevant as it's here as our technical ones. And we have to work together, the private and the public sector, also in universities, together, to work together to meet this challenge, because really to reskill millions of people, it's something that would be very relevant, well, that is very relevant just now. So they say that this is a skills gap iceberg, that we really don't see how far it goes with this thing of reskilling people. And that within 20 years, in terms of digital competences, 90% of all the jobs will require some digital skills, and we are not prepared for that now. And also some relevant idea, it's not just things related to technology or to artificial intelligence, but also in areas like ethics, regulation, and privacy we are dealing with now. So, European Commission again in 2019, they say, well, we need to change to meet these challenges of this fast-changing world and actually support lifelong competence development. If not, we are going just to be delivering something that is not useful anymore. Let's talk about now that two global and unexpected 21st century disruptions in the education field that had a transformative power for us. And both of them are related to technologies and online learning. First one, the open revolution, we have already talked about. No way without technologies, information technologies. So the open revolution was the first thing that started to change the mind of traditional universities. We started in 2002 with the MIT, with UNESCO, starting with the open educational resources, but really the big transformation, the big disruptive thing was with Moocs in 2012. Time said that was the year of the Mooc. With this, traditional universities opened their eyes that they could open their classes to a global, classroom, and that changed completely their mind. So you know that what happened after that, so big platforms started to offer around the world thousands of courses. We are still doing with that. And that was the growth until 2019. You can see the millions of people involved in these courses that were not integrated in the regular courses of universities. So it was the beginning of something that is different, so that people anywhere in the world could get there. And then we have this post-MOOC, as I said, letter soup, with many different ways and opportunities of delivering this kind of open courses and massive open courses. So again, the European Commission opened its portal, and that has been closed. And now we are, for instance, with the European Mooc Consortium, where there are different platforms also for Europe. And we also open here first with open educational resources, and Tim was the lead in that, in giving this first launch of our UNED Open Educational Resources portal. And in the beginning, we have 45 courses, and you can see there in 1 year the numbers of visits. What's the first idea of the power of these resources? And then, of course, we continue with our Moocs portal. So we have been also committed with this idea. But there have been, Mark Brown says that there are 3 waves of Moocs. The first was like opening and marketing and showing what the university does. The second was much more compromised with lifelong learning. Then there are these 3 is credit and continuous professional development pathways, and this started to change. So most of them started not to be open and free, not at least for all the Moocs. So it was the beginning of something different. It was the beginning of the micro-credentials, and even with full degrees. And here you have these big platforms such as Udacity or Future Learn in the UK. They started to offer micro-credentials, masters, it was said that even degrees with this Mooc format, and with this idea of get the skills, as Udacity says, get the skills you need in just 3 months. Okay. So here we arrive to the 2020. All the things we have lived in the United Nations said that, well, the COVID-19 was, this is the second disruption I wanted to talk about, but the biggest one. So COVID-19 was said to be the biggest disruptor in education ever. That was the idea of United Nations. And why? Well, because suddenly, if Moocs have introduced to traditional universities to the world of online learning and to open the university, COVID, what has introduced is online education in the formal programs. I mean, not just in non-formal, but the formal education programs of everyone in the world, not just universities. So it was like, you know, in 1 week, 2 weeks, what these things that haven't been done during several decades had to be done in just 15 days. Well, so it's also said that that's an accelerator of improvement in inclusiveness, equity, and access to higher education. That is what the Sustainable Development Goal number 4 requires. So it was also the discovery that traditional universities could work on this goal better if they include online learning. So we arrived to our year And UNESCO this year in the International Day of Education said that we have to go in a radical change of course. I mean, things are not going well. Really, we need a radical change, and that requires a compromise of the educational field to cope with this that we are dealing with. And again, the European Commission last year, I think it's this report of the transformation in the post-COVID era with the future of European universities, and they say, well, again, we have lagged. I say we in general, because of course distance education universities were not there, but well, universities have lagged behind technological developments and the economic and social needs because of all the reasons we have talked before. So we are not working very well in the higher education, and we are slow to adapt to changes. And what is it require? More agile models of recognition of competences and skills in more flexible programs. So that's the objective. Because we or universities are not accommodate to the heterogeneous student body that are going to come in a lifelong learning perspective, as distance education universities are used to, but not traditional universities. So the third thing is thinking, and there's the digital revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, so on, that we need to enhance knowledge transfer and collaborate in innovative ways with the society. And that comes with this idea of the fourth generation universities that has been introduced, and that they go forward, they go further in that they just don't do education and research and transfer of knowledge, but also they have this strategic approach to actively shape the environment. I mean, to transform really the environment and to proactively influence it. So that really requires to be very aware of the needs of the society and to give response to that and to work with the society. There are a lot of, meetings and webinars and so on about these things, about how we can reshape higher education because of the fourth industrial revolution. And again, it's this same idea. We need to reinvent ourselves, not only technologically, also under the perspective of what universities are really in the 21st century. And with this idea that students know that there will be an obsolescence in the knowledge they are learning in very, 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 very quickly. And we need to train people to deliver programs to support this skilling, to reskill, are also to develop the skills required to lifelong learning. Okay, so we have to have this idea in our transformation. First, this idea of Milo of becoming lifelong partners of people. So we start with people when they are young, and we have to go with them all along their lives. We have to find ways to go with them all along their lives. Second idea, ongoing learning opportunities. Lifelong learning require agile designs of our programs, micro-learning, which is the topic that Tim and Beatriz are going to talk about, and this idea of just-in-time learning. We are very used to going to Google and to YouTube to just-in-time things we need to learn something. Well, we need to be also prepared for deliver this kind of learning. And that's where we come to the idea of unbundling higher education and the future of universities, because all these we have been talking about we're preparing these things of unbundling higher education. So unbundling is something we are very used to. It's not a topic of universities only. I mean, it's in the industry and in the world we live. We are used now to do reservations of a flight, for instance, and to pick those things that we need. So it's unbundling is this process in which products are separately, and you can acquire, you can buy one but not the other. So those that can lead you to a personalized experience. So that's the same with music, with films, with everything. So we are developing a personalized approach to those things we want because they are unbundled. But the traditional university is a bundled education, traditionally, because you enroll in the university in a program and you receive all the services and you have this for a period of time. So it's a bundled thing. So this is what is being transformed, and there are many people talking about that, and there is a debate also. So the first idea is, well, unbundling is this process of disaggregating educational provision in its components: process, products, activities, services. So, for example, Moocs was one of the first ideas with that. And students can go there, and people can go there and just take whatever they want, and leave aside what they perceive to be superfluous. So you can see all the things here that can be unbundled: assessment, feedback, accreditation, qualification, learning materials, and so on. This is the things that universities are working on. But let me stress this second idea, and which can result in rebundling afterwards. We are going to talk about later. So this is a very Spanish sentence. I don't know in English if it does exist. Para muestra un botón. I don't know if you say something similar. Well, it's an example. So let's see that Harvard is unbundling. Unbundling Harvard is, you can see all the services that have been unbundling. So because Harvard is huge, it was a traditional university, but it's been disrupted because of unbundling, and they are seeing, what is the way of doing this for a profit. So there are like two visions. So the first, this is the unbundling vision of the for-profit sector. So they say, well, this is outside of universities, okay? So College Disruptor in 2016, this is Ryan Craig, this idea of saying that degrees can be broken in small pieces, and of competencies, for instance, and well, as I said, without any unwanted leftovers. And the idea of just-in-time education is smaller, faster, and cheaper. Hosted on an online platform, and that will build this efficient bridge between almost qualified candidates and the jobs of their dreams. So it's like saying, well, I'm going to offer you what you need to get the job of your dreams. So this is really a college disruption. And Craig said in 2020 with the COVID that at this point in 2020 after COVID, really it was when the great unbundling of higher education started. At this point. So he concludes that the perceived value of the bundle of universities that has sustained during centuries college and universities is going downhill fast. That's the idea. He's outside the universities, okay? Because this idea is not only for universities. So many other actors and agents are coming to this point. There is other vision, such as this of Tristan McCowan, that they say, well, maybe there is a danger there is this idea of that unbundling can be the end of the university as we know it. The thing is, what would be the future for universities? So he says, well, they can be unbundling driven by financial motivations, as we say, because there is much more money we can do by unbundling things. But there are also pedagogical motivations that can be interesting for universities. And that these are important or relevant in terms of personalization and employability. So this idea is a personalized, so I came again to this idea of first in unbundling and then rebundling, but under a lifelong learning perspective, personalization. So there are many issues going around that, and that goes with this idea of the battle for the soul of the college university. So this idea is, which is our main soul? So are we becoming business specialization in preparing people to work in business? Only that, or this idea again of creating human perspectives and critical stances serving the public interest. So this idea of the public interest, not just the financial one. So where are going to be, because we can unbundling and rebundling, but with these two different perspectives to protect these democratic ends for all. So that's why we are now seeing articles regarding unbundling and rebundling, and how to, this idea, I like that, is how will learning be rebundled into coherent, personalized pathways where value of learning, wherever and however it takes place, is recognized and valued. And that's the thing, who recognize the learning. And that's one of the things that can be relevant for the micro-credentials. So this idea, if we don't want just to go on the side of the for-profit, although of course, we need to be sustainable. But if we want something more, well, how to develop an innovative, inclusive, quality, transparent, and bundling and rebundling higher education. Well, that's the things we have to think about. On the one hand, of course, we have technologies, emerging technologies that will help us with this personalization we are working on, for instance, in our university, to provide these enriched and fluid learning experiences in which the person is selecting what he or she needs for he or she, or his or her future. But then we come to this point. So I think it is very important to think about who is going to give reliable badges, credentials, certification, accreditation. Who? Because that's the main issue, in all this market, who are the ones that are going to give this thing. A very recent article of Rory McGreal, which is one of the popes in distance education, about unbundling and this accelerated drive towards micro-credentials. I think it is interesting, although I'm not going to go in depth, because I guess that team is going to talk, and Beatriz more in depth about micro-credentials. But, well, this is strategic for high education leaders. He said, well, their micro-credentials have these common characteristics of larger than a single course, but less than a full degree, a labor market relevance, and wider societal impact. So he said that, well, that this idea of that micro-credentials for coming from the universities are particularly useful to personalized, quick, and accessible development of skills. That's the main issue we have learned. And of course, the European Commission, again, you have the QR, in a very recent final report about micro-credentials in December 2020, but we started working on that. And they are really very much focused on this idea again. So along the century, the European Commission has stressed this idea of modernization of higher education, integration of digital technologies, open educational resources, and now micro-credentials to give an update to higher education. So, well, the European Commission says that in 2030, all European citizens will be able to start their learning pathways whenever they want, at any stage in their lifetimes, and micro-credentials will give them this opportunity to upskill everything. So I'm not going in detail in that. You have the report, and I think it's quite interesting. But they say, well, we need short learning experiences, more learner-centered learning, accessible for all, of course. But again, this thing, ensuring trust, recognition, validation, portability through micro-credentials, this trust. And not only just for the labor market needs, I would stress this idea here, but also for the societal mission of education. Again, the societal mission of higher education of universities. They stress that they have been working already in things and instruments that are available for that. Transparency of qualifications through the European Qualification Framework and the Qualifications Framework of the European Higher Education Area, quality assurance in higher education, credits for achieved learning, recognition. So, I mean, the European Commission has been working in that along the years to reach the point we are. And also now this recognition of credits, that's something very important to open between higher education institutions and universities. This European Digital Credentials for Learning is a personalized tool to give everyone these credentials that is like a CV with all the things you have learned along your life, not just regular programs. So also the EADTU, of course, has joined that, and very recently 1st of April, has launched the modularization of continuing education and professionalization by micro-credentials. It's a European project supported by the European Commission to support these objectives of the European Commission. So the ADT was started working years ago with the European short learning programs and so on, and now this program in which UNED has been always involved. And so also we have joined this. We now have 15 micro degrees, micro titles in our university. Coming to the end, in these things of rebundling and strengthening the power of universities, also the European Commission is stressing this idea through different calls of the European universities. So we can unbundling things in the sense of not just one university giving something, but we can rebundling in a personalized way because students belong to a European university, more personalized, in which students can choose wherever they want to be trained, or which course or which event or experience they want, because they belong to a European university. So this call is for creating transnational alliances of higher education institutions working together to offer things with a strategic cooperation for years. I mean, it's not just for a program, for a project, and to achieve sustainability in this cooperation. That means working for flexible and personalized European curriculum, innovative pedagogies, and this idea I like very much is to be seamless learning, seamless student all our lives. And finally, two previous requirements to be involved in which also we are working in the past years, and we are going to be working in the near future. Digital competences of the citizenship and of the academic staff. We need this if we want to take advantage of all that. But also one thing I like very much, because I'm a psychologist, this idea of eutagogy. What does it mean? What it means to become a lifelong learner because you want. I mean, it's not just that you are an adult learner. It's that you are someone that wants to become a lifelong learner. You want to be learning all along your life. And this is a personal characteristic we have to improve, and we have to train our people to be lifelong learners too. So finally, this complexity of the challenges ahead requires that we connect all of us to work under this idea of a collective intelligence that can be developed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ángeles. Can we have some questions, please? Please don't be shy.
I'll start, yeah. Well, thank you very much for your very nice presentation. I learned a lot from it, actually. And I would just like to go back to this last concept you mentioned, which I won't even dare try to pronounce, this wanting to be a lifelong learner. Where would you say the responsibility lies for the development of this heutagogy? Like, I mean, how do we develop that?
Well, I would say that, like in psychology, there are some traits. I mean, there are personal characteristics that you can distinguish between people that really are prone to do that, and they are motivated intrinsically for learning and learning. And, well, that would be people that wouldn't have problems to continue learning along their lives. And on the other hand, the key is the engagement. So how do we engage people with learning? And so institutions and education institutions should deliver programs that really engage people. So that really relies on us. I mean, do we have programs that really motivate people, that really like them, that they are really significant learning for them? So that's why we have to work together also with discovering what people need. This is something that is not just related, as I said, to the traits of the people, but we, as educators, have to work under this more multidisciplinary perspective and vision. And it relies very heavily in the interest of the programs we deliver.
Okay, so thank you, Ángeles. I love the presentation, and I think it's not only you have seen a lot of facts, but also it's inspirational and motivational in a way. But I wonder how we can cope with, I truly believe in the strategy. The first time I heard about the unbundling aspect or whatever of theory, I very much loved the concept. But how can we cope with that with our national agencies for quality assessment in our countries? Maybe Harvard is, on the way, but we cannot say that we are behind Harvard. We are about 40 years behind them. So it will be impossible for us, Maybe there is a trend in some Anglo-Saxon countries, maybe I think, that they are much more flexible while dealing with quality assessment and the way they deliver the education. But at least in our country and this Latin world, I think it could be much more impossible. So our position is not going to be so nice.
I would say when I went through all these ideas that I'm not very much on the idea that totally unbundling is something interesting for us. Because there are also some perspectives and some ideas, some debate about, there are problems also with this idea of unbundling universities because, maybe you can separate research from education. Is it necessary? Is it necessary to break maybe this idea of the things you can offer as universities to some student? So there are also some ideas of unbundling that are not quite clear. Maybe for the for-profit, they are clear because there are a lot of business opportunities around that. So, but that's why I ended with this idea of the European Commission. Because I think the European Commission is much more focused on what universities really can do with this offer of micro-credentials, so something that really we can go on through an accreditation, a certification, or something more controlled. So that would be my perspective. So it's not just unbundling everything, I think. I mean, the idea of a university, I think, having together research, education, and so on, I think still is something that, and with social values, I mean, and with social mission, I think we have to keep on going with that. But the idea that we can deliver other types of courses, such as we started with Moocs, but now with a more transparent and really reliable accreditation for just in time or for those things that are really needed, I think we can do it under a controlled way. And that's why I think the perspective of the European Commission is important to take it into account. So, and to work in European universities that really recognize themselves to establish this recognition of credits and accreditation between universities. And other thing that it is important, and it is true that the CREC said that, well, traditional universities are relied very much on, of course, on the rankings and so on of universities. But they don't measure, and it is true, if those students that are there then in the society, they are really reaching what they wanted to reach when they enter the university. So are we getting really the results we should be expecting? So that's one of the things that requires to rethink the kind of programs we are delivering. And that's, I think, the starting point also with the things of micro-credentials. So if we want to become really reliable providers of higher education, not just someone or some business company or whatever. We need to really to be on the floor, on the to see what is happening, what is needed, and to deliver this, to deliver programs in a reliable way, and to be recognized between the universities and so on, to also promote mobility and internationalization. So I think we as universities have a pathway, and it's not just unbundling things, I think. But this is a debate, so that's a debate.
Yeah, okay. Just to brief things. First, the ANECA has not approved our micro titles. So, and I don't see the day that they will assess them. It's true that we offer them. So, the second point is that I think we are going back. We are going to 20 or 30 years ago, where we assess the institutions, the reliability of the educational institutions, and not the titling. So I think we are shifting forward to the old idea of, okay, I want to, make the accreditation to the institution and not to the studies that they are delivering. Because in fact, I don't know what type of studies we are, needing to deliver in the next decade, for example. So I think maybe the idea is shifting as it was, some decades ago.
I want to say that, again, I will call for the European Commission. The European Commission, with this idea of the European University, what it's stressing is just exactly that the quality agencies, the national quality agencies, and the ministries and the governments should work together in Europe to reduce all these problems. So, because what they want is just to get good micro-credentials, short learning programs and so on, to be accredited, to be certificated, and to be recognized between countries. So they are stressing really governments and ministries and quality agencies to work together. So ANECA might be there. I don't know how long would it take, but I mean, the European finance fundings are going to promote just the opposite, not just the national things of accreditation, but a broader perspective.
Thank you very much. Just for our non-Spanish participants, when Covadonga was talking about the INECA, that's the Spanish National Agency for Quality Control, and we have a very interesting relationship with them. They're definitely on my Christmas card list, let's just put it that way. One last question, unless anybody else has one. I'd like to play devil's advocate, if you permit me, because, I mean, as you say, what we're beginning to see with micro-credentials, we saw before with Moocs and with other initiatives going right back into history, is that, in a way, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We unbundle things, and then we rebundle them at institutional level. So perhaps we're now offering short learning programs, micro-masters, but I'm putting my courses together. And I don't think that's what the Commission had in mind when they did this. I mean, the nice thing was if it would be easy and transparent. For example, I could pick up a couple of credits from the Complutense with other universities and build dynamic programs. I mean, do you think there's any chance of that happening in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think, again, this idea of the European University, well, I mean, not every university will become a European university, but this idea comes with that. I mean, that this is not bundling in one university. It's bundling in a huge area of reliable institutions, for instance. No? So you can pick there, you can pick there, you can pick there. They are going to be recognized. You are going to build your own pathway. That's a personalization, but it's a reliable pathway. It's accredited. No? So it's not accredited in your institution. It's in under a broader perspective. And I think it's what the European Commission has in mind. I think. Hope so.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and we'll move on to the next presentation.